All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a bonus edition of the Leather Chronicles. Our guest this evening is Dave Rhodes, with a list of things that he's done that's too long to mention in the front, but you probably know him as the editor and publisher of the Leather Journal. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody that Vi Johnson's book, To Love, to Obey, to Serve, is available once again in print, and your purchases benefit the Carter Johnson Library and Collection. On that webpage, you will also find CJLC merch, which also is a benefit to the Carter Johnson Library and Collection. You will also find other fabulous books that have been out of print for a while available there. And you can find past Leather Chronicles on the ACES YouTube channel and all the videos from the Carter Johnson Library and Collection on the CJLC YouTube channel. My guest tonight has been chronicling the leather community for decades, as well as making leather history for decades. And as Vi said earlier on social media, she was really looking forward to this one because the interviewer becomes the interviewee. Mr. Rhodes, how are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing fine.
It is so good to see you. It's been a minute or two.
It has.
So we're going to jump right in because you've got a lot to talk about tonight.
Don't adjust the camera first.
You're good. My first question for you, sir, is with the benefit of hindsight, when did you discover you were kinky?
The first kinky thing I remember, and the first guy I got the hots for was Chuck Connors on the Rifleman. There was this guy with that khaki type shirt, but didn't know that anything would be working on the farm in the 1880s wearing a shirt like that. But the sweat stains on his pits and his manliness, there was just such a turn on to that. I didn't know what any kind of, because back in those days, people didn't talk about sexuality much, whether it was gay or straight, it just wasn't a topic. It was like not to be done. And so there was that, the super masculine men, tall guys, very tall, or guys that are real short, I could cuddle up. We take a little one that's cuddle like cuddle. And then for the same with the big guys, somebody 6'7" or Travis Kelsey, if anybody knows who that is. This tall tree, I can get cuddled by that. So there was that like. In fifth grade, I remember one of the books that we had. It was Life About the United States in the early days. And it had these Indian things. It was describing Indian tortures. And guys being stretched out and having red ants, eating them the whole pit. Somehow I was getting enjoyment out of it. And I knew that was different. So later, my dad was in the Navy. And when he retired, he got the money to buy a 7-Eleven franchise in Imperial Beach, California. And I would work in the store. I would get out of school, then go to the store. And my dad, one of them would work the early shift. And then when one of us got to school, we could run the store for 15, 20 minutes while they would go to pick her up or the exchange. They would be out of the store 15, 20 minutes and maybe delay a little longer. But the second they were out that door, I was over to the magazine rack. And there's one thing called Police Gazette. Most of the people in my generation probably don't even know what that was. There was Police Gazette and there was a competitor they had. But they always had pictures of handcuffs and batons and guys being handed up and guys in jail cells and the whole bit. And that was a real turn on. So by then I said, okay, there's something here. I don't know what it is. But this was in 1960, 61. during that. So it goes back to that. I was 13, 14 years old at the time.
So pretty
So
early in life.
very early. That's as far back as I can remember. And even some of the cartoons, the guy tying people to the railroad track, you're not giving you your ranch. What was this John with the big mustache and that? That was a turn on too. It was a big cartoon. But actualizing kinky, when I came out as gay in 1976, and would pick up copies of a magazine called The Advocate when it was in LA. Advocate came out every other week, and then their competitor News West came out the other week. So the Advocate News West, Advocate News West, Advocate News West. Well, both of the publications had ads for leather bars. And here is this masculine, manly attraction. And the leather guys, a lot of Western guys in that too, and you would see. But there's just so many bars. It's like this. When you're out in the road, the straight world, you know gay is there, but you know how much of it there really was at the time. This is pre-AIDS. So
So you came out as gay in 76?
yeah, 76, in March of 76, the Tuesday before Easter that year, came up to one of my sisters. Okay, well, I lived in Ventura, Oxnard at the time, and we go down to, well, actually, we had a bookstore in Ventura. I mean, that's right at the time the Drummer come out too. First copy of Drummer I got, it was like issue 3. So it was not long into Drummers stretch. Over their time, they put out 215 issues of Drummer. So I was around from 3 all the way up to the end of it. But they had things in there, places to contact and all that. And between the ads in the LA gay papers and the Drummers, I knew the boys found the places to go. Well, they had a bar called Larry's on Melrose, right near where Paramount Studios is. I'm not sure how many of you know much about LA or have been here, but in the Hollywoods, there's so much in that area, that city. Like the first leather bar going back to 1951. The building of the bar is still there, but it's a straight bar, which I think is a bar restaurant now. But all in that Melrose, between Highland and Western, there was actually been Highland and Vermont. This is about a mile and a half section of street and movie studios around it. Then where there's little shops and some restaurants and all that in there. But I went in that. And when I went into Larry's, I was showing up in business dress, white shirt, slacks, cordovan shoes, lace up when I could reach my feet. I haven't touched my feet since Reagan was president, literally. That's why you see me running around with no socks. There's a reason for it. And no boots. I can't put them on. And if I take them off someplace, they have to get back on, which limits me. If you go up by yourself, you're stuck. You can try driving without shoes on in LA, no less. You know.
Oh, God.
But anyway, the thing is, nobody talked to me. But the most important thing was that nobody was rude to me. And that's, we can sit there and lie, oh, yeah, I told her off, and we're all laughing about it. But the reality is, you have no idea who's in that bar, new people come in these places. you have no idea what their life is going to be like. And if they're just shunned, they get lonely, they leave, they go on to the next thing. And they're gone. And they had they've been made fun of, or hey, hello, you get in the ooh treatment, like the got cooties or whatever. And they remember that. Well, me, I was not rude, treated rude. So I eventually went from the bar to the bar. And that was only for a short period of time. The bar was open for about a year. It had slings in there. It had a dungeon rack. Right in the bar slaves, where there's two pipes, and two pipes, and they could go back and forth, and the collars on their neck led up to these pipes. I don't know what was going to happen to these guys if they slipped and fall. They would get hung. I mean, they probably had to do some kind of safety for that. But it was certainly hot to look at.
Oh.
Hot, sweaty men in leather and being, chained with things serving you drinks. That
Well,
was pretty.
let me take you back a little bit. When you came out in 76, what was that like? Coming out gay. What was it like in 76?
It was more people were accepting than more. A lot of people didn't understand it. Everybody in my family was accepting of it. My dad gets an answer because we never discussed it, but we never ever in my lifetime discussed anything sexual ever. And I never saw my parents kiss each other. Most of the time there was a Cold War between them. Not hostile. And my dad, I don't think I maybe heard him cuss maybe once or twice, and that wasn't very much. He wasn't religious. In fact, he was very opposed to religion. And because his dad was a Pentecostal pastor, it was, the song the Temptations came out with, Papa was a Rolling Stone. That was my dad's dad. So my dad left the religion for that. My mother's side's Jewish, but we weren't raised in any of that. We knew we were Jews, but we no bar mitzvah, no learning Hebrew, no learning the Torah, yada yada yada. But occasional Yiddish picked up into like a vault or something like that. Or call you some funny name. You hear enough Yiddish words, and they're very stark words. None of them are casual. They're all just, they're out there. But so family was fine. I told one of my sisters. I called her on the phone, and but I went to the born again thing, and was going to a Baptist college. I went to LA Baptist, which is now the Masters University in Newhall, Santa Clarita, and they reacted very negatively. In fact, the preacher gave of that church, they gave us using the words faggot and queer and all these things from the pulpit. One wrote them a letter, an anonymous letter. They spent more time trying to find out who wrote the letter than they did on anything else about it. And so it turned out to be a hostile break. That made it easier for me. It did me a favor because that brought the question to, the question was called basically at that point. Because I hadn't been doing anything gay. I was coming out as gay before I had an experience. I had roommates and friends in college who were gay. You hear this thing about birds of a feather. Well, flock together, and we hung out together in school. And that was 76, and there was a lot of lonely wondering. I'm a guy who around myself a whole lot, and I like being around other people. But somehow I don't make the connection to have a lot of people around. It just hasn't been there. We haven't dealt with that. That's what life is, so you deal with it. But that's pretty much the coming out was. It was one side I'd never had. There's never been an attraction to women. There's none that wasn't there. It's not even, just like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is not part of the bicycle. Yeah, it's completely foreign. Nothing negative, but just no attraction, none. So
you coming out with your family was sort of okay. It was the
better
community.
than what most people go through. I have 3 sisters, a mother and my dad. My mother was a huge more concerned that it wasn't her fault. Yeah. The only negative I got out of that was, oh, yeah. So I didn't know who if there was fault or not. It's too early in the game for me to, even deal with that concern. And for the sisters, when I came out to her, my middle sister, I called her from a phone booth. I just had to tell. This is right after dealing with this church and what's going on. So she's the first person I told. I knew she had some gay friends. They live in Fresno, which is in Central California, for those who don't know about that. The younger sister who had gay friends, and, a guy named Pat. He was the head of Fresno's Imperial Court at the time. And that sister was hanging around. Then we're talking about these friends. I'm hearing that. And I'm hearing them not being brutalizing gay people. So I felt more comfortable bringing it up. Another thing I want to go back to, this was pre-76, when I was in college. I was working in a grocery store to help my way to school. And I was working the graveyard shift. And LA Times ran a long, several pages long article on MCC, Troy Perry and the gay church. And this was my first reading anything about gay itself, other than verses in the Bible, which are just throwing at people. So outside that had its effect on it. Something the light has gone off and on at that point. It was the seed was sown at that point. And so that's the start of the gay. Now back to the leather. I've been going from bar to bar for a couple of years. I've been doing that. And then back in 1983, it was in early summer, I met a guy named Daddy Bob. We put on some of the best parties. At one point later, he ended up becoming co-owner of the Bullet Bar. You may have heard of that. And that bar's been around for 40-some years as the Bullet. And it was at the headquarters of the Officers Club, was named one of those names. And he bought part of it. So, but what it is, I ran into him, and I started wearing, by then I'd been wearing slacks, right? This jeans and the white t-shirt. If you're new or a bottom or whatever, they tell you no belt, blue jeans and white t-shirt and boots. Is what you're more supposed to wear.
I wanted to ask you.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you. You said you went into Larry's the first time in business attire.
Right.
How did that go?
I said nobody talked to me.
Oh, okay.
But nobody. We're gonna allude to that soon.
Okay, sorry.
This is an important thing that I put in my editorial several times. Plus, I'm going to make the one point, finish up with Larry, or college. too. And well, I met this Daddy Bob in there by the pool table, and he had a long string, like a real thin whip type thing hanging off the left side of his belt, and was wearing a gray T-shirt, leathery, but not just the leather guy. It's $3,000 worth of leather. He invited me to go home with him, and he had his lover was not into leather at all, but appreciated that Bob was, and was good enough that he helped accommodate Bob. So he did. He got funded Bob the money to turn part of the garage into a small dungeon, and he had that. This behind the secret panel. They had a panel there with all the tools and everything on it. You could remember. Does anybody remember Phil Silver's TV show? It was about a military army thing. Back in the time when they're doing all the seriousness, the big wigs, the Gestapo and the SS guys, like they Logan's heroes in this. But anyway, those guys would leave. Well, they had this wall, they could turn it all the way around. There's a full bar. Yeah.
Nice.
So there was a party show in the Army in the 50s, maybe touching the 60s. But that's what this panel was like. It was really hot thing we had. That was my first full play session. It was so amazing. He would shave and clip people's pubes off. They had all these jars of, pubes on the wall. It was just like about 30 or 40 jars.
What year was this?
This was in 1983, early summer. I would say it was May or June. He had his birthday party. He invited me to his birthday party, which he threw a big bat. 150 people come over. And he did the same thing in New Year's. He did a New Year's Eve party. Same crowd, same debauchery, lots of good food, and just rowdy and boisterous. Not a lot of sex going on. There's hardly any room to do it, but the place was packed. But that got my connection to the community, the people in it. That was the seed that got me involved itself. And at one of the parties, I met a guy named Chuck. Now he goes by Matthew, and he's still around. But he invited me over to a club event, a club meeting. It was the first or second Friday of one of the Fridays of the month. And they would have the meetings at his house. He had one of these small mini theaters, like with 20, 25 seats in it, and a theater screen and a projector and all that. Being in Hollywood, you find there's quite a few of those around. They could have the parties, and but I went to the club, fell in love with the club. Not long after, we got accepted as a member and became an officer. I was their corresponding secretary. And through being a corresponding secretary, I'm communicating with the clubs. That's one of the things that led to the Leather Journal.
Which club was this, Dave?
Samandros.
Samandros. Okay.
But now I'm going to go back to Larry's and the part about not being taught to, but not being treated rudely. I've written editorials, probably 4 or 5 editorials on that same topic. And I'm bringing up now was we don't have a lot of resources, and we're burning resources. It's one thing we can sit there by ourselves. We know each other. They make some jokes about what people are wearing, cologne and all that. But if we mistreat them, we don't know who they're going to be. We have no idea. I mean, if somebody rejected me at Larry's bar, if I became the brutality, would I be around to do what I've done? That might have killed off or something. I'm more patient and persistent. But I'm very patient. I will allow for a whole lot of things to go on. and let them brush off. You don't know who's going to be, what they're going to do. So I ended up coming up with a magazine. But how many of these have been blown away and scared away? And we got to do a better job of that and talking to people in there. You hear sign holders getting on stage and tip your boot black, tip your bartender, and trust, honor, respect. And they're carrying a lot of it's the stuff. But how many of them are following through? They'll get up and give speeches about talking to people who are new. Usually people new are shy and might not be the hottest thing in the bar. In some cases, they're just drunk and you're not dealing with them because there's a problem. But the ones that aren't problems show them who's the majority of them. If they get left and experience, like get out and go belong in our bar, they'll leave and they won't come back. And when they interact with leather in the future, they've had one negative experience that's been negative. So let's say, well, they don't get involved in leather, they go get involved in the court system. Or maybe the Pride Parade and Festival. This time, somebody brings up the question about leather in the parade. This guy's experience was so bad with leather, people are going to get shunned and brutalized. He's going to chime in with negativity, or she's going to chime with the negative experience that they had. And that could lead to a reason why there's no leather in the parade or the festival, or buried in the back somewhere.
Well, I know we've got some folks in the room running for titles, so I hope they're hearing you and they take that into consideration. So
this title holders give the speeches. That's why I brought them up. You hear from the title holders and say they're ready for a title, and they're going to say stuff, But that's when people need to heed. Tip your boot black and tip your bartender and trust, honor, respect. They're parroting phrases off. Okay, that sounds good. They're trying to win something. But sometimes they have something that's poignant to say and affects all of it. And if people, the title holders are going to do that to a degree. They might preach it from the pulpit, and they might do a little bit of it. But they're going into a title, which is they have been busy. Part of being a title holder, doing what title holders do, is being around the other title holder. So the title holder wins this. All he ever does is hangs around with the title holders. Well, there's enough title holders in there, and they're trying to work. You don't have them 7 nights a week. This isn't like your job. You're going to go out to the bar. Some people go to the bars maybe once or twice a month. If you're running for a title, you're expected to be out more than that. But your visibility and who your peer group is going to be the title holder. So yeah, they're going to be around the title holder. It comes with the territory. And in that, coming with the territory, it limits their capacity to do certain things. And that's why nobody's going to keep on about accountability for money. What are you doing for benefits and fundraising? We see immediate effects of those. So I mean, the new guys, the younger guys, the older guys that have been lost and left, they don't have as much time to spend with them because they're busy, not doing things that people hope they'll do, or even they plan to do in their speech. They're not necessarily failing on a promise. They're just hitting the weather when the weather's busy. So, but beyond those, the rank and file, you don't need a title holder to preach it to us. We need to do that on our own. Say hello to these people. Just you're talking to and saying hello to one of these guys coming up, my name is Todd, Jim, Ann, whatever your name is. You've broken the ice. They're going to go to the bar every 3 weeks or every 2 or 3 times a month, and then go a whole year, not getting any one-on-one contact with anybody. where they can hold a conversation that might continue a little bit. They give drink orders, stop in a little shop at the bar, add, maybe, excuse me, oh, it's nice seeing you. I saw you last week. And then boom, then the conversation stops at that. But carry that on. Some of these people, that makes their day. Just like you saying, oh, hello to them. That's it. You made somebody's day. And just like you're out there in the shopping center someplace, you decide to open the door for somebody. It's not a guy opening the door for a woman in a way where they might expect it to. I've seen women open for women, men open for men. It's that one gesture that turns the direction of somebody's day. Most of what we're doing with the bar situation is the timing of it too. Other than weekends where you might be the beer bus and there's a lot of people, a lot of the guys are at night. So last part of the day, they had somebody come up to them. So when they go to bed that night, that's fresh in their mind. They get up the next day and they've been altered just maybe a degree or two, maybe a little more. And we pick those up and
Grow the community.
right, there's wasted resources. There are people that came out because they took the time to drive there, get an Uber, take a bus to get there. They weren't there already. So they had some effort. They're saying to get something out of it. So yeah, that's one of the things the Leather Journal's been about, is being able to say things like that and keep it positive.
Yeah. So before we get into the Leather Journal, tell me about being a sportscaster.
Okay. Well, I've always been doing sportscasting and all that. My mind was on. I remember Vince going, "Good morning, everybody. It's a warm Tuesday afternoon here at Dodger Stadium, and welcome to Dodger baseball. Leading off for the Cincinnati Reds, number Pete Rose is on a 10-game hitting streak." I would idolize that, and I would turn. I got to the point that I was turning the sound off. And I'm watching the games on TV and calling the game like an announcer would call it, just to my own self. And one time I set up a little fake news studio with cardboard box and all that. And for my parents, I did a half-hour news show for them. They created news by following the 6 o'clock news format and just did a news show. So it's where I intended toward journalism and came out of journalism. High school, I played football and baseball, and so I had knowledge of some of the games from that. And then in college, my junior and senior year, I was working on the school paper, and it was a small college, LA Baptist, like 400 or 500 students. That's a classroom at UCLA. I mean, yeah, it was a big stadium-like classroom to go where that was that big. So there wasn't a lot of interest in the school paper. They had a paper, some years they'd have it, some years they wouldn't. If somebody took I took the interest in doing it. So I became editor my junior year. The most colleges, you become an editor when you're a senior, not when you're a junior, because the seniors, unless there's no seniors in there. So I had my junior and my senior year with it. And it was done run off on a mimeograph machine. It was legal size sheets of paper stapled in the corner. But it was something. We had what we had to work with was very limited. And the interest was weak, but it was there, and we made do with what we had. So the basketball team was having videotapes of the game just for their own scouting. They can look and see the plays and what they need to change, what they did good, what they didn't. It was a tool used by coaches to make the teams better. And the idea, hey, here's a chance to do some play-by-play. Talk them into let me set up and call the games. So they're calling these games for the school. It was on campus. It's not going out to the real world. Just students and faculty and people interested in the school. But you couldn't go off campus and catch it. So somebody in school support, they'd have to come to the school and see it. So that was limited. Well, the second year of doing that, some of us went to one of the football games at Hart High School, and this is up in Santa Cruz, New Hall, in that area, Castaic, north of the San Fernando Valley up to 5 before you go up the Grapevine. To give you an idea where that was. Well, we were in the football game. It just happened. We were going down to the snack bar. We were going to get a hot dog and a soda, most likely. And I had these guys arguing. And they were dressed, nicely dressed. They weren't the regular band, you can tell something. Well, what they did at halftime, they lost their play-by-play announcer. I don't know if they fired him on the spot, which is unlikely because one of them's going to cover the second half of the game. Anyway, so he might have stormed out and got pissed off, and there was a last straw, and I couldn't stand. I never, to this day, I have no knowledge of why, something this half of a show and not completed. So you'll never work in this town again for that. So, but I thought over this and I've done this with my school. Give me a chance. They brought me up in the booth, called the second half of the game. I didn't get real loud and super cool because they didn't know that they were the players, but they knew that. They put me in there and I got the job on the spot.
Right place, right time?
Yep, right place at the right time. I was sitting in the right bar stool. And, what was the Discovery and Schwab's?
Went down to the snack booth and ended up with a job.
And that is the way Hollywood works. It's just that way. People go to USC, UCLA Film School, get degrees and everything. They fill application. Don't call us, we'll call you. And hell freezes over. But the 20 of these guys coming in every day. People want these jobs by the thousands. One spot. They just want to get their foot in the door. So if you go to one of these places, they're hiring, and they're not hiring, they'll take you, maybe refer you, think of getting an agent, all these things. You're not doing. But then they get persistent in going back, checking around, and the cameraman dies on the spot. That happens. They're making plots right there and they're gone, Or something happens that they need them now. Television works on real time. There's no timeouts, it's real time. Football game, 2-minute warning, 50 commercials between the games, one guy back again. No, but life, it just continues. No timeouts. So this is what it is for them. They have to fill that spot quick. If they don't fill it, they're losing time. And all the competitors are gaining on fast because you're stopped and everything else is going and it doesn't stop. So this guy, poor schmoes, have going around every week for years. That's what gets them the job. Now, there's a lot, many of the jobs are gotten there because they're looking for people. We need 20. These people need 20 of that. And then they get in, then they work their way up the ranks. That's the common way. But the persistence, and so it's, boom, we need you right now. Why do you get picked over somebody else? Because you were the one who was right there. If you were pushing room, you might have got the job. They need somebody right away. Well, that's the way that was. And I worked for a station called Valley County Cable Television, which was owned by Channel 4 NBC. not by the network, but by the NBC station in LA. They owned the cable, and that was us. And we did other programming, we did sports, there was some lifestyle type thing. But it was really a precursor to CNN. These guys, they lacked funding. They to go further, there's a land in Kansas City. It's all flat. If there's ever a flat place on the planet, that's it. If you've been to Kansas City, you know what I'm talking about. Great people, great football team, but it's flat. So, and
So we can thank that we have the Leather Journal because of your well-timed trip to the snack bar at a ball game.
well, I was before I did that, I was editor of the school paper.
Right, and the school paper.
And then in junior high school, I worked on the paper then. I was their sports editor then. So going all the way back in my early days, I was working in newspapers, whether I was riding around a bicycle, throwing papers on the lawns every morning or afternoon. I did that. I went around, I would win sell subscriptions. The top guy sells subscriptions. You got to go to the San Diego Zoo with friends, you know. There was always something that was good you would get for a new bicycle or something, or
Right.
whatever.
What year was the football game?
The football game was in 1971.
71. Okay.
I don't even remember who Hart was playing. But they ran them off the field. Hart has produced so many good athletes. They've got 4 NFL quarterbacks out of one high school.
Wow.
Rand Tarkington, you've heard of that one, was from Hart. And the baseball team did the same thing. They won a lot of championships. It's not a Catholic school either. I think the Catholic schools improved, but a regular public school, that one was good. So it was a good place that was doing it. That's the year we won that decade. I remember that. That's the year we won 3 football games the whole decade.
So what's the genesis for the Leather Journal? How does this come about?
How this came about was journalism background, for one. When I moved to LA, I'd gotten a job selling ads for the gay paper at the time. There's a paper called Frontiers, and we have one called Edge. And that was the same thing, Frontiers Edge, Frontiers Edge, Frontiers Edge, you know. And then they stepped it up and made a monthly out of it. We're going to go into that disaster later. The word Meshigots, if you don't know what it is, you'll learn. You know? So I got the job selling ads at Frontiers. The paper was coming out late. And people like the bars, like Studio One, that super big disco they're making a movie about. Like the movie's already made. It's just waiting to get released. But this super gay disco. And I got that account. The paper was coming out after the event was over. Not a good thing. It's not going to get paid for it. But you printed it and you got to pay all the employees. You know. So I ran into a difficult situation. And a couple of us, a couple of us, a guy named Louis J., who co-founded the Leather Journal with me. And that's another topic of its own. Him and a couple of us, 4 of us in the paper, the staff, we went to the publisher and said, you know, something's got to change. We're not able to put this thing out. Now we're 5 weeks late. We can't sell ads because nobody wants to pay for ads that we already printed late. So we talked into him in the Labor Day weekend of '85. We talked him into letting us run the paper and for him to get less involved in it. If anybody understands football and the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones, they need to have a Jerryectomy in the team. That's why they don't win. This super rich owner has got its number in the game. Well, that's the way the paper was. The owner of it was the biggest, not by being a jerk or anything like that, but he just didn't get it, you know. So he let us do it. He says, okay, I don't want to lose the paper. You guys have obviously got to believe you can do this. Let's go for it. Well, we turned it around. And by Christmas, we had the thing successful. That's the latest. With this other competitor going after everything we had. This said magazine was not city on the ball. They were trying to do everything to catch up with it. And they took the lead for a while with that. Well, come by the Labor Day, the next Labor Day come around. That was Labor Day, that's when we said it was Pride. Okay. There's some publications, like Drummer did in the Leather Journal in the early days. Once we got to 100 pages, we were putting out 100 pages whether or not we had the advertising revenue or not. And Drummer was the same way. It had its page count it was going to have. It still ads in. You pull some more ads and you pull some fluff articles out. You plan your size around your editorial. So we, with Frontiers, our size is determined by a percentage of advertising sold, which is the responsible way to do it if you're not sold over the counter, your free distribution. Well, we had taken a paper was 24 pages thick and 5 weeks late when we took it over on Labor Day. And the following year's Pride, we put out 104 pages. And it was based on the advertising. 55% advertising, 45% editorial. And I was the one responsible for the ad sales on that. Now, at one time, it was the largest gay paper had ever come out at 104 pages. And when the publication is based on that, based on the ad sales, we kicked butt. The thing was a winner, you know. Eventually, the owner found out a way to blow it, and the thing ended up going bankrupt. That thing went bankrupt so many times. The printers, they didn't have a printer. Now the printer kept taking them back because they'd already printed up on them, bankrupt on them, they'd take them back. You fool me once, fool me twice, but fool me 5 times. Yeah. So it's like, that's even a stretch for that. But, so I worked in journalism before, and the various parts of selling it, sports editing as I did with the Baptist, I was also doing sports editing from the Santa Clarita Clarion. The New Hall Signal show the Clarion on is gone. It's a smaller paper. We were the little guy in that, but they were kind of friends with the TV station I worked for. So annexing the paper position, that'll give you insight. I got to see how that type was done, the little lead type things and placing it in the block. That's what it was. And messy. I just had black ink all over everything. You don't have to touch anything. You just walk through that room. You come out and you get ink all over you. You got on something and sprayed over, dropped on you or whatever. You can't get out of the press room without getting ink. So there's a lot of things tied together, tied to help the next step.
So what was the inspiration for the Leather Journal?
This friend Louis and I worked at Frontiers. He was a typographer. And they had just come up with something called CompuServe. We were gotten just past the point where we had to set type. With CompuServe, it was coming out on, you type it in, it was like film, or like a photo. You would take a photo of it, but it was a continuous way they had of doing it. They had special solutions, developing solutions, so you could make your type. You could take the page, you cut the thing like that, and then you'd wax the back of it and stick it on an artboard. Not all that ink and mess, not all the place to put all of it, and having to pay somebody all the money to do that. See, all these things come along, they become faster and they become cheaper in staff. I think Frontiers would never have made it without that copy service. Leather Journal sure as hell wouldn't have. But Louie and I had gotten together. We talked about, but I had moved from the Channel Islands Marina with Oxnard to LA, in Hollywood. In that period, when I started Frontiers and working with them, I had moved in closer so I could be around where I'm working. So I was here and met Louie, and we were both members of a club called Samandros. He was like vice president of the club, and I was the corresponding secretary. And I was responsible for sending news out of the club. The members in the club newsletter would go out in the club, but we would also send it out to other clubs, like-minded clubs. We sent like the Chicago Hellfire Club, some other clubs around the country. It wasn't like hundreds of them. We probably sent to maybe 15 or 20 clubs, but the problem, it was getting out there. And I was a stickler and always coming out with it and having it on time or close to on time. It was simple again, it was a simple layout. It was not so extravagant with a production thing. It was print it, mimeograph it, and send it, snail mail. But so we've been talking. So well, drummers out there, there's some news in it, but we don't have a newspaper. As great as a drummer is, that's not drummers' focus. They put it in there just because they can do it. But nobody's ever done a calendar like we did in a club directory like we had. So we met in January. It was the last Sunday of January of 1987. We met. We were doing. If you understand German, you hear the word dummy. That's not a person. A dummy's a layout card. You're making a map, a plan of what your page count and all that. What's going to be on what pages. So we created a dummy, which I found a couple of years ago, buried in all this stuff. That's the Ark of the Covenant right there.
No doubt.
Yeah, but I found that thing. I've got it somewhere in here. That's worth a lot of money. So, but we came up with the idea of putting this out. Well, by May 1st, we had gotten it up to be able to put an issue out. So I started. I put all the money was put into it. It started with $1,000. The guy at Old Frontiers allowed us in our off hours to use his typesetting machines and to use his drafting tables. So we had help that we didn't have to pay or rent space. So we had help. Key help at the right time.
That's nice.
But we've done a good job for him. I mean, building the paper up to what it was from the biblical disaster. That's a Titanic stripping both sides of the ship on the night.
So 87, you put the first issue together.
Right. It came out in May. It was 32 pages. and it was a bookstock cover, not gloss.
Mhm.
Why the guys on the cover didn't sue us, I've never figured that out. But there's this one guy named J.D. Slater of Zoo Studios. Who remembers Zoo Studios?
I see some hands.
God knows. Scott's in the ring because there's something else I asked that people they had one up then. So that's cool. But he did that. And of course, getting a photo of one of your models on the cover, that's like it's better than a full page ad because Megan would be laying there on the counter. Nobody even picks it up. Never physically touches, but they see the cover. Or if it's flipped over, you see the back of it. Untouched, it gets seen sometimes. And that's why a back cover costs a whole lot more. It's worth a lot more. You don't even have to be involved in it. Just you don't even know what magnet it is if you never gone over just the ad on the back. But
What did you intend for the Leather Journal when you started it? What was your contents?
what my intent was,
Yep. What were you covering?
we were covering primarily club news and club events. Getting involved in the title system was just a few years later. But I had goals of being a top, you know. I approach things when you're going in, if you're going to dig in, you're going in to win. It's a championship attitude. You're not there to place your show or get a participation award. Your end goal is to win, to be on the top. Now, there's a razor on some of that. And I was working, there wasn't much work involved in it, but we did the things. Because we never had the wealth. We never had any Harvard scholars working there. And you can find better writers out there, I'm sure. But having all the things that you need, all of the stuff in totality, that created winning.
So
And yeah,
you
having me at
were
the top in every category, you're going to win with that.
so is that you started traveling just to events and club gatherings, and is that when you
Right.
started right when you started it?
And that was very local, and it grew. In the very early days, I got over to Arizona. They had some pretty great things going over there. And they could drive there. Once in a while, I'd fly over there. Most of the time, it was, Phoenix is I think it's about 20 miles less than it is to drive to San Francisco from here. So, but they
So
had some pretty
you
good
started
clubs.
local with that and then started traveling further as it allowed.
Right. And then I was a member of Chicago Hellfire Club as well as some Andros before the paper started. And as a member of the 15 Association up in San Francisco before the paper started. So there's a connection to these clubs. The Chicago Hellfire Club, they don't like being publicized much. They've got a very old attitude about they're trying to protect members. They've got some people in that club that, be a disaster for them if
Right.
it got to who they were. So they're being very protective and we respect that. And so, but we could only put like when we knew Inferno was, you couldn't even put what town it was in to get up. So I put it in there in Douglas Dunes or Saugatuck, Michigan on the calendar. Boy, the president of the club, they were on the phone. We got a letter from this whole thing. Nobody knows where we are. We keep it that way. Yeah, we go there. And the residences are going up and here, pool whips cracking and people being mummified in plaster, buried up to the neck, shaved, whipped, branded. I mean, all that's going on. So yeah, they want to be protected. Joe Schmo from who works as a singer or something like that, who had their record or tape or whatever at the time, does not need to know this guy likes being tied up and having his face written.
So what was your distribution when you started, and how did that evolve?
1,000 copies.
1,000 copies on the first ones? And they went where?
All over the country. We had places, but some people, they took it. We had a return policy. If you took 10 copies and you didn't sell 7 of them, you could return the 7 to us. It wasn't much, but it wasn't the number. We never gave things like 7 return back. That's just so picky that nobody does it. They keep them, but it was selling. I think it was steady growth, and it grew. We were quarterly at the time. We put on like 3 quarterly issues out there. We went up to bi-monthly, and not long after that, we became monthly. Now it comes out every 2 months. As far as now back to going to the events, a lot of my ability, other than going to Inferno and 15 boot camp weekend, as a member of the club, you'd be responsible for your own on that, like anybody else. But if I went out, getting asked to be a judge at contests and them covering airfare and hotels and some of these weekends made it affordable so that I could go. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do it. We still have the magazine going, but we wouldn't be able to make the travel.
Right.
We were out there judging a contest. We were also finding other news and making contact with clubs. Often the clubs are the ones who are producing some of the content. So that's the thing that broadened as far as me getting. We were already out there being read. That wasn't the thing, but beginning to go to places, which is kind of a reward for the work.
How many events would you say you've been to?
I know in one 5-year stretch, I went to 225. That's 45 weekends a year for 5 years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. That was really talk about expensive.
225 in 5 years. What period was that?
That
What
was in
years?
the mid-90s. The first contest I got to judge was a bar in San Diego, and I don't remember what the name was. It wasn't a construction company or the loading dock or something like that. And that was the first contest I judged. But there's a whole lot of humor stuff. I'll tell you this one now. But one of these talks we're gonna have, a lot of it's gonna be on some of the humor things that happened. Well, my first contest, they announced the judges, and this is down in San Diego. The contest was on a pool table, and the steps that they have were the beer boxes, the ones that open up and you return and send the box back, and they refill with beer bottles. Well, there was like two steps in the pool table, or 3 steps in the pool table, however that worked out. But I was the first judge they introduced. And they go up, they step on the first beer box. The second box, they step and go right through the box. So I fall over and try to kick this box out of my way. Some people were concerned, was I all right? And other people were dying of stitches laughing.
Oh no.
I was just totally in shock. But what they did, they didn't put enough beer bottles to support. They're really missing 3 or 4 bottles in the middle. It was
Oh no. Oh goodness.
And
Just for everybody to understand, we're kind of doing an overview on Dave. Dave and I are going to get back together and go through and do a Zoom. We're going to do a recording per subject that we're talking about. So Dave's going to go into the weeds on things. We're kind of doing an overview with this one, and then there'll be some more coming. So watch for those. So you went from sending them to clubs to major distribution, going to newsstands and stores.
right, and early on, we were finding where the newsstands were. You know, like the Leatherman in New York. On Christopher Street, they're right up by the Humble, the Stone Line is just outside the front door down the street a little bit from where they are. We're staying there. We got into distress because I knew Alan. I played with Alan Selby. That was quite a bit of fun. That's good. All that has to be a comedy section. And when one of these things, I'm not, they're going to be remembering the stuff as they go and they come up. I want to be able to write these down so I got a note. This one, this one, this one, this one. I did just so much. Enough to make at least half of one of these shows with a comical things. There's just so much. And I've been out to all these places. And I've judged 450 contests.
Wow.
The only ones judged more was Mr. Marcus, and then they did Marcus say this from Bay Area Reporter. He judged probably 200 contests before I judged my first. And he was going till the day he died. They had a real nice memorial for him up in San Francisco, but
I bet. Yeah.
he had a column. It wasn't a news column. So he could put things in that news column, that column, you know. Being a columnist is an editorial position. But when you're reporting news, you're reporting facts. That he can get away with stuff. People threaten and, you know, I'm going to sue your ass. Well, go ahead and try. Second attorney realizes that's editorial content, which is opinion. The lawsuit falls flat. And he would get strong and really slam some people around, usually who deserved it. I never did. He and I had a feud. That's the part of the comedy too. But we got the thing cleaned up. We both were doing stuff to each other. How often do you get two sides get involved and they're people of power? They're club presidents, they're maybe IML and Mr. Drummer, IML and International Miss Leather, they're getting a feud. A lot of people see that, and you might want to back down rather, but you got a piece of people pushing you behind it, you know, on both sides. How dare you drop off? You know.
Right.
So, but we got that thing cleaned up.
Something just occurred to me, Dave. Do you?
That's about a year and a half, and it was brutal both ways. We were both armed to the teeth, and we were firing. You know,
What's the old saying? Never get into an argument with a person who buys ink by the gallon or by the barrel.
Yep. But when you got two people who buy ink by the barrel, yeah.
Dave, something just occurred to me. Last time I saw you, you still had back issues. Do you still have a bunch of back issues of Leather Journal magazine?
Yep.
Can people buy those on your website?
They can't buy them on the website, but they can get a hold of me and we can, you know, I'll find out what they need. There's some of them where short supply, some of the older ones are going to cost more.
Right, right. And
Like we got
I remembered you had a bunch.
We got copies of issue 1, and the most we've ever gotten for any one of those was $750. Usually done at a fundraiser or something like that. But the man who buys these back issues, and they're paying the premium rates. I mean, issue 5 and 10 and 15 are not going to be $500. They come down, but we've even got some of the early ones. There's one with Guy Baldwin on the cover where it's with the INL Eagle Line on stage. On the cover, they've got one copy of it. I've been trying to find alternate copies, you know. So
Maybe we can help you out. We can sell some of those back copies for you.
They'll do that. They want to help. We have a Patreon site. And Patreon's out there. People know about it. You have so many fundraisers. You give your whole paycheck to Patreon. Yeah.
So if one of my folks would pull up the is it under Leather Journal Patreon?
Yeah. Give me a second here.
I was gonna say they can probably find it and put the link in the chat for us.
Yeah. Another thing is you can go to the leatherjournal.com and click on, you're going to see all the photos of rotate of this, the Day Rhodes Hunt Day. They'll come across and add the link. So we got a Patreon page. If somebody wants to make a monthly pledge to it, they can't afford to give us $200 check right now, but they can afford to do $25 a month. Comes out at the beginning of the month. Every month they're billed. Most of us are involved in some of those. It's got different amounts. You can give on whatever you decide to give, but they can do that monthly. And we have a GoFundMe, because they have a GoFundMe for businesses, not just for a hospital and all that. It's people like us who are looking for funding. The advertising isn't there like it was, because the bars are closed and the leather shops and these places closed. We don't have these places to go to anymore, but we don't have them as sources of income either, or as distribution points. They're gone. So we're having to rely more on the generosity of readers. So the link to the GoFundMe page, if you say you want to give some, and we'll pay. Somebody wants to give us $10 on there, and somebody wants to give us $5,000 on there, and we've had some bigger amounts come through. And
So
one thing about this, remember we were talking about Hollywood, and a job opens up at just the right time.
Yep.
Well, we didn't have that time. Okay, the counts we had, they're not paying any money. We got 3 months, and we collected $4,000, and we need $7,000 a month to get by. So you're $17,000-$18,000 sunk. Although it's accounts receivable, and you know you're going to get it. It's not a bunch of people you don't know. These are consistent people. But it seems at these times something drops in. If something comes up, somebody sends something. And when you're getting it, you kind of get the idea that you're supposed to be doing what you're doing. When the universe comes up with something, it's been very scary at times, more times than not, but the universe has always come through for us.
How many issues of the Leather Journal have there been now?
330.
You're on 330. Wow.
No, 332. We just put 332 out. That's on its way to many of you.
Well, tell me about
give you an idea.
Pantheon of
Drummer put out 214. When I was out in the early days of this, I had that as one of my goals. The long-term goals we set. I'll set 5-year, 10-year, 20-year goals. That's something the Chinese are good at doing. They've got like 500-year and 750-year plans, and that country's operated on that for millenniums.
Tell me about
Governments have changed there, but some of their plans they've stuck to.
Right. Tell me about Pantheon of Leather, Dan.
Okay. When I started out, let's say Newsweek was giving a man of the year, a person of the year, and a couple others. The first few years of the Leather Journal, I would do that. Well, as we were limited, there was limited choice of people. That's who I knew was around. So they were getting some of the awards. But then in 1991, I said, we can turn this into an awards show. And have people nominated for awards, and have a panel of people choose awards, not just who Dave Rhodes thinks, or might find out whether there's a Dave Rhodes crony when you look at it 10 years later. You know, you're one person's given to their realm of reach. You don't know what you don't know about, what you haven't seen. So you see the choices, and they're not bad choices, but they were, it had a credibility. Just somebody you don't have to give awards. While nice and they appreciate it, you want to have something that's got more of the community behind it. So we had more categories and took nominations, and I created a panel the first and or second year that we did the award show, of people to select the winners. Not long after that, what we started doing was somebody wins an award in 1991, or let's say 2001. That's when the award show was built. They've done their work in 2000, maybe a little stuff before that. We take the people who won the previous year's awards and ask them to be on the selection panel. I think, Scott, you got one of these awards. I think that you served on that panel, right? I know Vi, is she here? She's been on that panel probably more than once.
In fact,
So the people had that experience. They're not coming back to Judge Ionel, who's stepping down solo title holder. They got now like 30 or 35 people receiving awards. So we invite all those to serve on the panel. Some can't for whatever they don't want to, or they can't, or whatever. But the majority of the people want to be on that panel. So it's got to come in from the community and fresh. And all these people wanted, somebody won an award last year, and they're in the panel deciding what's going to be this year. All these people are people attuned to the community. That's somebody who did something 25 years ago and they're still around in the PR. But every one of these people, a Lifetime Achievement Award winner, has been around the earlier days, but they've also been around, So you're getting people generally people knew their ears to the rail. They're involved.
right.
And
So Pantheon of Leather came out of, you started doing some awards for the Leather Journal, and that evolved into Pantheon.
And then 91, we decided to turn it into a show, awards accepting nominations from the community and having nominees voted on by the panel. And now the envelope
I've heard tales of some of the early Pantheon of Leathers were, I mean, it was basically the Oscars, it's the stories I've heard.
Pretty much. We followed that format. It did come out of Hollywood. Our second show, we produced in the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel in the same room that the first Oscars was held. Yeah, I was wanting to use winning stuff, Gonna beat the Oscars, You're getting to play at Yankee Stadium, not just, Cleveland or something. You want to be on the right stage, We had that stage the second year. We're the only leather event that I'm aware of. The key is that I'm aware of that have live orchestration in the show from beginning to end.
Wow.
With Hollywood talent. That show cost me $43,000.
In what year?
This was in 92.
Wow, that's a lot of money in 92.
It was a lot of money in 1992, but I could afford it. I couldn't absorb a $42,000 hit now. We'd be so toast. I mean, we would be split atoms, not just ashes. You wouldn't even find it. It would be so split. But yeah, we had Eddie was the orchestrator of it, and the Clint Eastwood music for the spaghetti westerns that Clint Eastwood did. He's the guy who did that.
Oh, wow.
We had the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. We had the Klieg lights going all over Hollywood. There's all these places right on Hollywood Boulevard, across from Grauman's Chinese, basically. Yeah, that's where Jimmy Kimmel does his show now. He goes to Jimmy Kimmel from the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, same room. No, I almost became the biggest schmuck in the history of Hollywood with that show. We had this is you'll die. When you put anything in Hollywood on, you will go to the fire department. They will check it out for code, and they'll pay them a $500 fee for doing so, or you won't put on a show. So we had that permitting. They checked stuff out. We had like this. Because who's one of the responsible for burning down the house of the first Oscars? Yeah. So we all know this type of person, the type of serve that doesn't respect anybody, not on the bottom of the part of the scene, but they don't respect rules or all that. They're this, I am Satanya. Is one of those things, beyond the pale. Well, all of our rehearsals, they did a run through. This is for the International Master and Slave Contest, which somebody else owned, but I didn't put it on during my show, so we had a venue and an audience. But one of his fantasies, they wanted to do a fire scene. No, you're not going to do a fire scene. So what they did, they bought it out with, Les, who I had him produce the show. They had it out with him, and so they provided a skit so it didn't have the fire in it. So it was simulated. Okay, contest starts. And there's a guy named Neil was the manager of the hotel. It was owned by a Japanese couple from Japan who were away. Okay. The show starts, the contest is going, they start the fantasies. They come on, they did the fire scene with fire. One of the things fell down and things started to catch on fire. The second, that boom, the fire thing went a flume like that, a flume like that. And the second that the owners of them were back in Japan, they opened, walked in the door to watch that plane going up. Needless to say, the hotel manager got launched into some Soviet space.
I can only imagine.
He did everything he could, but these people lied. And something caught on fire, and there was a guy on the drapery and stuff. That hotel going, do I want to be known as a schmo? I had a Jeopardy question as Dave Rhodes, who burned down the Hollywood.
Oh, Lord, Dave. Oh, my God. And yeah.
Billionaire. This guy's the one who burned down the Hollywood Roosevelt.
Oh, Now, Pantheon of Leather still goes on. People can make nominations through the website, right?
Yeah, we're just shy of 900 people having received awards.
Wow.
Including the ones I had, the handful that I had when I started giving awards. But there's like 889 or so, 890 people who have received awards. And some of these people have received it more than once. Some of them are clubs, some are individuals. Like Vi's won a few awards. She's got one of the year, probably a Community Choice Award, possibly the Lifetime Achievement, which he scored, I think Joel's done some of the people here have been recipients, and some more than once. But that's a lot of people.
Yeah, it is.
Jimmy, you know how many IMLs I had? 45.
Right.
And of course, we could say that is kind of skewed because it's like saying the Lifetime Achievement Award. Which award do you pick to be the main one? Well, the main one wins IML, and there's 50 other contestants. So that could, you could skew that fact around. But
Right.
still, it's a lot of people. There's a lot of lives affected by that. And the idea is to make people, there's a thank you to people in the community. A healthy community does several things, and one of those, it honors its heroes. A good society does that. I mean, even Soviet Union and China did that. So,
Now, while you were doing the Leather Journal, you started another magazine, right?
right, we had 2 or 3 of them.
So I know of Queer. What other magazines?
The queer is CUIR for those who, it's a French word, it means leather. And someone has to square the double entendre of that. We had
I love
another
it.
one. We had 19 issues of that come out. That's us like we had that all. We were putting out once a quarter, I think, what we were doing. And then we had another one called Eagle, and 6 issues of that came out. We stopped doing Cure, and then about a year or so later, we picked Eagle up. And then I had another one called Leather Tribe, Leather Nation. And that was an annual. And then we ran into some financial tough, and we ended up bankrupting it in '97. And the court allowed us to restart it, keep it going, because in order to do that, you have to make significant changes. Well, that was easy to do. It was sold over the counter, became a free distribution paper. That's a stark difference. We were a gloss covered stapled magazine, as to a loose leaf newsprint newspaper. Was an 8.5 by 11 magazine, and now it's a 11 by 17 tabloid. So by far we made the conditions to be able to keep it going. And it grew back and was even stronger later.
Now, we're having this special edition because on the fourth Wednesday of the month, you're at Avatar.
Right.
Now, what's your involvement with Avatar?
I'm a member.
Just a member?
Yeah, I've been I served an officer on the board 2012, 13, and 14. It was like I was on it for a couple of years. But being slowed down and something, iron in every fire, basically. People spread thin and getting older.
Yeah, you've certainly had your irons in some fires, sir.
So, and, I never got branded. I never branded anybody, so. But
Well, folks, I believe that's our overview with Mr. Rhodes. Now, like I said, I've been making notes, so we've been going through, and Dave has agreed to come back and do some additional recordings on these subjects individually, so he could really get into the weeds. As I was talking to him about subjects that I wanted to talk about, he kept saying, "Oh, I could talk for an hour about that. Oh, I could talk for an hour and a half about that. Oh, that's 2 hours right there." So I just wanted to get everybody to understand how much you've done for this community over the years and how long you've been doing it. Um, let's go ahead and do some questions. Does anybody have any questions? Wolf, what are we looking like?
I think everybody's just been fascinated and listening, and nobody's taken the time to go, oh, wait a minute, here's a question.
Well, let's go ahead and open
is
it
that
up.
Phyllis Dorsey? I haven't seen Phyllis in ages.
I have been on the screen of you and me. Let me look and see. We've got several folks sneak in, and some
Yeah.
have gone out.
Well, I've got one row that goes to, then you click a button for it to slide over.
Susie did say the name of the bar was the loading zone.
Loading zone.
I did see that pop up.
That was
Loading
it.
zone. Okie, good to see you
Right
stuck
where
in,
the
sir.
Jack in the Box and 30th Street are. Is right near.
Oh, that was Wolf's. Jack in the
Wolf.
Box. Yeah, that was Wolf's.
That's what it was. Wolf.
At the back room.
Yeah. Long on the corner of the street, and the Jack in the Box is off. That was great convenient to get those tacos after you do the bar. Yeah. Great spot for them. But,
So who's got questions for Mr. Rhodes? Go ahead, raise your hands. Scott had his Pantheon of Leather award. I saw him put that up for us. And yeah, Vi's got a shelf in the hallway that's begging for mercy currently. I hear it every time I go by. It's most shelves are flat. This one's kind of got a little bow going to it. Dave, I warned you I might not have questions.
Look what happened. Sometimes does.
Did I miss anything?
No, I'm scrolling through this. I made it all the way down. It's one row, it's only a little button, continue button, They're not all, there's so many that they're not all on the screen.
Did you have any involvement with NLALA?
Yes, I was one of the founders of it.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
The National Leather Association was founded in Seattle in '86. They created the idea of having a leather convention as a Ford Motor Company might for its management and all that, where you got workshops and keynote speeches and vendors and the modern format of so many events that we have. You got keynote brunches, big dinners, classes, exhibitions, and maybe some social things to do during it. Socialized parties during business conventions, like, the average corporate America does. Well, they decided to do that. They had play parties, they had vendors, classes, something with demos, how to hold a flogger, yeah, everything in there. So
How long did it take to get NLALA going?
a matter of hours. It never was big, but we always had something. And I'm not sure we really pulled off a big event here. I don't think we did it, not as that. At least I'm not remembering it. But one thing NLA can do, and it sounds critical, but people like to be officers and things and want to have a position. There's all those positions you could get a position somewhere being in that. But what we primarily, at least our chapter, we weren't as involved as some of the other chapters. Like NLA Dallas, I believe, is still going. Most of the NLA stuff out of the West Coast has been history for decades. But there's other parts of the country where it's thriving. But they started Seattle, it was small, and then they grew. They did, I think it was the first 3 or 4 were in Seattle, then they did some in Portland. Then they moved it around the country to places. And certain things broke off of that one. This where you go like Southeast Leather Fest, South Plains Leather Fest, Southwest, Southwest was in Phoenix, the Master Slave Conference, and those the contests all had the keynote speakers and the convention, a professional convention thing. So, but I remember there's another funny story. I was in the one in LA, Austin, or it was an LA chapter. I don't know if it was called LA Austin or Texas, but they did their Texas Leather Weekend, I think is what it was called. And it was the first weekend of May. Well, great event, great people. And but one of the events that the beginning of May every year, that Sunday, the gay community would go out on what's called Lake Travis or Travis Lake to a place called Hippie Hollow. Now this Hippie Hollow, you had to take the boat. It was like about a 45-minute houseboat ride across the lake to it. And it was rocks and stuff and water around rocks. And you come to California, you see the seals and out on the coast sunbathing. Well, that's what people have the speedboats and riding around and all that. Well, I went to that 3 different times. They had that. And the last time I went, we were on a houseboat and it was having trouble. So we were on this houseboat and it started to sink. We were halfway across the lake on the way there. So we're standing, we got rescued, we didn't do no sewers of water. But we're suddenly going, mirror, my God. If anybody's seen the Titanic, they'll get it, you know. And they played an Irish hymn, you know.
Oh, God. I take it you made it out okay.
Yeah, no, they died.
No, I'm
This-
talking about the
This is a
houseboat.
rude awakening for you. Yeah.
The houseboat you were on, not the Titanic.
Yeah, it was like, but it's my thing. Everybody's there panic, and I start to sing near my God to me, which could have been a disaster. And I come up with that.
Oh goodness, Dave. All right. I'm gonna wrap up the recorded portion. I want to thank everybody for coming. You've got a bonus. This is a bonus Leather Chronicles. Next week, the fourth Wednesday, we do have another Leather Chronicles coming up with Stuart Siegel.
Oh,
I'm
That'd
gonna
be-
go ahead and cut the recording off here so everybody that's here can say hi to Dave that maybe hasn't seen Dave recently. So,
yes, Stewart and his partner, they produced some of the regionals with the Olympus.
yeah. You and I judged Florida Fetish 2006. I was on
Yeah.
the panel with you.
So he's been involved in
Yep.
it as a producer of one of the regionals.
So I'm going to wrap up the recorded session. Thank everybody for coming. Look for Stuart Siegel next week. And we're going to have some more of these with Dave where he goes into the weeds on each of these topics we've covered tonight. Otherwise, everybody would have been here for about 10 hours for Dave to tell his whole story. So thank you all for coming, and we will see you again soon.